Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is going to be all about the reasons that I love Dota. And it's also going to be about the reasons that I don't love Dota. And it's also going to be mentioning the fact that I've been playing a lot of Deadlock, Valve's new shooter slash MOBA game that I think they've done a fantastic job of keeping all of the great things that I love about Dota while removing the things or the aspects that I don't like about Dota. So before we get into detail about each one, let's talk about my 6 favorite things about Dota. Number 1 is the unsolvable and ever-evolving puzzle aspect of the game. It's the min-maxing aspect. You're playing the same map, same rules. How fast can you hit those timings? Can you beat your opponent to the objective? The positive feedback and ever so satisfying sounds that are incorporated into the game. The characters and personalities of the heroes within the game. The comeback potential where any game at any point is winnable as long as you can find the one line to victory. And number 6, the balancing of the game by the devs who clearly display that they play the game and listen to the community as a whole. Now let's stop being so positive. This is the Dota community after all. What are my 3 least favorite things about Dota? Number 1, the pool of heroes that are either unfun for the person playing them or for the rest of the people in the game. The discouragement of cooperation and the power dynamic of the roles within the game. And number 3 is the immortal drafting system at the highest level that prevents you from being able to practice a role or a hero. It also pins you against people at the drafting stage. Now, these 3 things about Dota that I don't like, I never really viewed them as something that Dota could be without. Removing a bunch of heroes that are boring would be bad for the balance of the game. Adjusting the roles of support and utility heroes would also interfere with the balance of the game. Too many heroes would have to be completely reworked. The idea that there's carries, there's supports, there's offlaners, that's a vital part of the balancing of Dota 2, and it's just something you cannot remove or change. And also understanding that at the highest level, well, there needs to be a degree of maintenance that is required to supplement the fact that these drafting issues at the start of the game are happening. And since I believe that as a result of the 2 above reasons happening, I think this one is mainly fixed by understanding the causes, not the symptoms. And these 3 things are all addressed in Deadlock. And we're going to be getting into detail exactly about all 6 positive things for Dota and how Deadlock removes these 3 negative things. But before I break down each of these points for you guys, let's have a quick word from the sponsor that made this video happen. As we're talking about my 2 favorite games, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, BootDev. BootDev is a platform that gamifies how you learn back-end web development from start to finish in Python and Go programming languages. The smartest way to learn to code is to make sure that you are never bored. BootDev is online, self-paced, and it feels like a captivating RPG game. The platform is designed to get you writing a ton of code because getting your hands on the keyboard and shipping projects is the only way to really learn. But don't worry. If you get stuck or you just want to see how the instructor wrote the code, there are solutions available for every challenge on the site. Click the link in the description below and use my code BananaSlamJamma to get 25% off your first month or an entire year if you sign up for the annual plan. And at BootDev, they understand that not everyone can afford a membership. So all content is free to read and watch from guest mode. A paid membership unlocks hands-on coding, AI assistance, progress tracking, and gamification that makes the content more immersive. Now, what are you waiting for? Check out BootDev and start programming today. Let's break down the 6 things that I love about Dota. Every time you think the game is figured out, someone or something exposes a weakness of yours, or you run into an interaction or a matchup that you're unfamiliar with, and you realize you have no idea what to do. There's always something new to learn, whether it's a mechanic, whether or not it's a hero, or it's an entirely new role that gives you a different perspective of the game. And once you crack the code to how to win the game, that quickly gets changed with a new patch, and now you have to figure out an entirely new combination to crack the new code. All these aspects of the game promote an environment that requires consistent growth, consistent learning, and consistently checking in with yourself, awareness of why that worked, why it didn't work, and is such an efficient way to distinguish between the absolute best players and the people who are just kind of following the meta. When I say it out loud, this kind of sounds like exhausting and not necessarily what you would want out of a game for fun, but it's also something that I think keeps us all hooked on Dota and makes us keep coming back for more. Now, playing off of that, number 2 is the min-maxing aspect of the game. You're playing the same map, the same rules, potentially the same character, and you're having this sense of trying to beat your own records, trying to race the opponent to these timings. Can I get this Battle Fury before 14 minutes? Now what about 13? If I have a free farm lane, what about 12? How many CS can I have at 10 minutes? There's all types of situations, especially as a carry player, where you get to think about these timings and just trying to grind them out for the little nuances that are just going to spur you a few couple seconds forward is really unmatched for me in any other game that I've played. To me, this feels like a metaphor for real life. I think it appeals to human nature for a reason, because at the end of the day, you are living the same 24-hour day over and over and over again. What you can accomplish in that 24-hour day, how much work you can get done, how many people you can have impact on, how much fun you can experience, and just the joys of life. How much can you pack into a day, and how much becomes second nature? You learning these good habits, you have to unlearn bad habits to be able to push yourself further. This metaphor between Dota being a real life simulation condensed down to a 30-minute game or more, it just hits different than any other game that I've ever played. And number 3, the positive feedback and ever so satisfying sounds that give you a sense of success. So we have the classics, right? The Axe Culling Blade, the Earth Shaker, Echo Slam. There's just nothing like landing those 6 spells and the euphoria that you get when the sounds come out. I'm sure most of you can get that tingling sensation just by watching a clip of Earthshaker Echo Slamming 5 people at once. And it can even be as simple as the gold sound when you get a last hit. And don't even get me started on the simultaneous gold sounds cha-chinging when you clear an entire stack, and when somebody else is clearing the stack that you made. Oh, as a carry player, I could fall asleep to that at night for sure. We go on to number 4, the characters and the personality of the heroes in the game. I don't know about you guys, but I feel personally connected to my favorite heroes in Dota 2. Their voice lines, their personalities, what makes them them, the interactions between them and the other heroes, what they do when they're upset, what they do when they get a kill, what they do when they win the game and they celebrate their victory. To go a step further on this, that I absolutely love about Dota is you can tell a lot about a person if you ask them what their favorite heroes are. Like if you were to go on a date with somebody who plays Dota and you're like, okay, are you like an anti-mage player or are you a tinker player? What if they're a lone druid player? You know, just think of all the things that come into your head when somebody tells you this is their favorite hero. Are you my type of person? It's like if somebody says their favorite hero is Oracle or Io, I instantly feel like I can trust them, assuming that Io is going to be a support and not the, mid Io that never tethers you a single time in the game. But this aspect of Dota, for me, it really brings people together as a part of the community, and just you can already sense a connection between you and others just by talking about the heroes that you love to play and why you love to play them. Number 5, the comeback potential of the game. Yes, there is a negative downside to this where you feel like you could be playing perfectly throughout the entire course of the game, make one big mistake, and lose. The whole point is that as long as all 5 people on the team are trying their hardest to win, almost any situation in Dota is salvageable. And if you're losing, all that means is that the stars have to align just that much more perfectly to make things work out. When the symphony of spells are orchestrated beautifully, the item timings are aligned perfectly, and you're able to clinch victory from the jaws of defeat. That feeling in Dota, I don't think there's quite a high like that life can match. And I do believe that also contributes to Dota being kind of addictive in its own way. But that's another topic, not for this video. And number 6, the balancing of the game by the devs. What I'll say about this is I think it's very easy to ruin a game. Diablo 4 actually comes to mind by simply patching the game in a really unfun or out of touch with what people love about the game and why they want to keep playing it. And also things that were maybe unintended developments that people kind of hacked the game, cracked the code, as we mentioned earlier. And whenever I read Dota patch notes, I know they've been coming increasingly sparingly, I don't see them as often as I used to, but I feel like, wow, yeah, that was really unfun. Yeah, wow, that item was bought every single time. And wow, that hero conceptually did need a rework. I just don't think it was good to have in the game as a whole, like the old techies, right? I think having devs that really care about the game and understand why we love the game is essential to the longevity of a game. And that is what Dota has spoiled us all with and why we have been here for so long. I've played this game for almost 13 years now. Now that gets me to the negative aspects of Dota. So what do I not like about it? The pool of heroes that fit one of two traits, or both. The two traits are they are fundamentally boring or lacking flair, where they only appeal to a small pool of players and they're often considered cheese heroes. You know, what percentage of the people in Dota like to play Chen, Enchantress, Broodmother, Lone Druid? On the same end, how many of you like playing against these heroes? How many of you like what they do to the game? Now, yes, I understand there's some sick people out there, you know who you are, that love playing Broodmother, the Bloodthorn patch, they use one item on you and the spiders kill you instantly, or playing Lone Druid and cheesing the game at 15 minutes, or playing Tinker in the old days and becoming unkillable and perma-sheeping somebody. We all know you exist, but if you really ask yourself, is that good for the game? I personally say no. The second part is the one-dimensional heroes that have little to no flexibility with the items that they build and the contributions that they have to the game. It's like standard anti-mage contribution. Heroes in Dota can often be very pigeonholed. It's nice for thinking about the strategical balance of the game, but it also leads to a lot of predictability. And also, I think, expectations from people about what items you're going to build, what your hero is going to do in the game, and when you don't do it, it often leads to a lot of disappointment, raging, frustration. And I think having this like streamlined, perfect build, items that are completely unviable on that hero is overall bad for the enjoyment of the game, as well as the creativity that players can kind of dabble with over time. Number two is the discouragement towards cooperation and the lack of symbiotic positive feedback throughout the game. And to top it all off is like the coupling of the power dynamic between roles. There are many situations in Dota where what you are supposed to do is what's best for the team or what's best for someone else on your team. And it's often at your own expense. So like this own expense can come in numerous different ways, right? This expense can come with the overall fun of the game being less for you. Example, being an offlaner that because the meta is to buy Greaves Pipe, you buy those items instead of Blink Blade Mail and getting to initiate and stun people, and getting flamed if you don't go those aura items. Supporting your carry or offlaner in lane as a support and becoming reliant on them later to buy the right items and effectively make use of your support. This feeling that we're both supposed to do the right thing, but you get money and I don't, I think is a very bad thing for the teamwork, especially in pubs where you're playing with a bunch of strangers who have no rapport with one another. On the flip side of this interaction, being the offlaner or carry who needs proper supporting because your hero is either weak by itself or not very strong in the early game. And then you suddenly get a support Pudge who is choosing his own fun at the expense of your own. There is a lot of trade-offs between who gets to enjoy the game of Dota 2. And then the only unifying goal, the only mutual benefit of everyone within the team is the pursuit of victory. And that is something that you only feel at the very end of the game. And oftentimes, since that is the only mutual benefit that everyone has, it starts to feel like everything I did for the first 15 minutes feels like a complete waste because we ended up losing the game. It becomes very easy to be results oriented because of these aspects of Dota, and often leads to a lot of future toxicity. Yes, in an ideal world, nobody would have, expectations or harbor resentment towards people in their past games. But I feel like this happens more often in Dota than it's ever happened in any other game. And it's because you don't see the fruits of your labor until the very end of the game on a lot of roles. And the roles that do get to see it throughout the course of the game are the ones that are most played, I think, carry and mid. And oftentimes, even then, you could make one or two big mistakes and completely fail your team. And that puts a lot of pressure on you. This just leads to so many negative dynamics between people, and a part of why I think Dota is the most toxic game out there. And last but not least, the third aspect of Dota that I strongly dislike is the immortal drafting system and how it works at the top bracket. What this leads to, and I understand that this doesn't affect the most of you, is the inability to practice the role or hero that you want to play. There's absolutely no reliability of how often I'll get to play carry or offlane, which leads to a lot of wasted time within games. It also leads to a lot of harbored resentment between people in the drafting stage, leads to a lot of ruined games, and creates a system where people are effectively pinned against each other and there's no incentive to follow the rules or to collaborate other than this mutual benefit of winning the game. And this mutual benefit of winning the game is often held against the people who want to win the game, meaning that it's usually the guy who has to be the nice guy and step back and play the role that he doesn't want to play. I use the analogy that this is like going to the gym and wanting to lift weights and become in better shape. And the majority of the time, you're not even allowed to use the machines that you want to use. I want to go do biceps today. I'm not even allowed to lift with them today. That's how it feels going into Dota games in the Immortal bracket. And this is a toxic environment that it begins at the pick stage. And as much as I love, we should all be a team and idealistic scenarios, fostering a game and a competitive ranked system that encourages people to work together and to see the benefits of their play, I think is absolutely essential to not seeing these negatives. So I know I've spent the majority, if not all of this video so far, talking about Dota, and I'd like to spend the last 2 or 3 minutes talking about what I love about Deadlock, Valve's new shooter MOBA, that maintains all of the 6 positive things that made us all love Dota, at least me, and it got rid of the 3 things that I despise the most about Dota and made it an unfun experience for me. So first, the unsolvable and ever-evolving puzzle aspect of the game. There's so much movement tech. There's so much related to shooting, guns, ammo, each character having their own auto attack animation effectively with the guns. Every character has some sort of scaling that's magic based or physical damage based, and you can mix it up a lot and really just spend a lot of time experimenting with the game. But it also dumbs it down just a little bit where the items are in tiers of cost so that you don't have to worry about, is Butterfly 300 gold more than Daedalus, and is that going to affect my timings? There's complications and nuances of Dota that I think are fun and all, but could be done better by making them a bit simpler and allowing for more creativity of decision making, because heroes can fill multiple roles. The min-maxing aspect of the game. They've made some balance changes in Deadlock already that basically say, we want you to be able to explore the map as much as possible, press the limits. Any abusive strategies, we're going to remove them. But there's the jungle, there's rotating between lane and ganks, there's min-maxing your choices across the map, trying to hit timings and aligning with, okay, neutral spawn now, mid-boss / roast spawns now. These are the parts of Dota that you feel like you're chasing that timing and you have to hit it if you want to get better. Positive feedback. When you get hero kills, when you use your spells, when you hit those neutral camps, when the creeps explode, it's the so satisfying feeling that you get in Dota when those creeps die. The characters and personalities. The heroes flame each other. They have vendettas. You think of Kunkka versus Tidehunter. I've seen numerous examples of this already happening in Deadlock. And for me, that personality aspect is what keeps you wanting to play this game, keeps you wanting to play these heroes, and just really being fascinated by the dynamic and the lore, even if you don't care about the grand scheme of it. Knowing that certain heroes have beef with each other, certain heroes like each other, it just makes it so much more fun and satisfying to shit talk somebody that you killed on the enemy team's hero, for instance. The comeback potential. It's important to outskill people in lanes, but I think in Dota, there's even games more often than not where you'll lose all 3 lanes and the game's just over. Deadlock, that's obviously going to happen too. There are 4 lanes with 6 heroes instead of 5, but it feels like the 1 kill in Deadlock is enough to get you back in the game. While in Dota, yes, creeps in Deadlock and Dota matter more than heroes overall, but the idea of how far ahead you are seems less snowbally in Deadlock unless all 4 lanes go poorly. I think that's an aspect of the game that will always be there for either game, but Deadlock definitely made it less the case, and it's only snowbally, it feels like, when one team cheeses the other, and that's something that has always happened in Dota as well. And last but not least, for the things I like about Deadlock is the balancing of the game. The game's only in alpha, but you can feel that they've learned all the lessons that they learned from Dota, and that's why I actually view it as like the spiritual successor to Dota 2. Because of the fact that when I look at these patch notes, I get the same feeling that I had when I read a Dota patch note. It feels like Christmas every single time, and the difference now, to be honest, is that Deadlock's getting new patches every 2 weeks, minor patches every few days, and it makes me a little bit bitter, but at the same time I understand that the priorities from Valve have shifted, that these patches are coming out so frequently for Deadlock, and it just feels like Dota's not giving the same love and attention that the newer game is receiving. So the things I didn't like about Dota, and I think this is the most important section for me because of the fact that these are the things that I think Deadlock did an amazing job of removing. So the pool of heroes in Deadlock, I've tried 8 different heroes at this point. There's 22 heroes at the time of release of this video. And let me just say, every hero is unique, but also has different build orders. They are all fun in their own right. If you think about all the new heroes that have come out in Dota in the last like 5 to 10 years, they're all fun. You know, maybe you don't like them. Maybe they don't fit your playstyle specifically, but they're all fun. There's no unfun heroes in Deadlock, and I feel like they've been able to make the game from the ground up with a smaller pool of heroes to start, basically trimming all of the fat of these heroes that are only liked by very few people. I feel like the variance between these heroes is very small in terms of how much they appeal. Yes, there's going to be heroes that are more popular than others naturally, but that discrepancy is far less in Deadlock than it is in Dota. Discouragement towards the cooperation aspect of the game. I think this is simply solved by the souls being shared in lane. Yes, there are roles in Deadlock, but there's no aura items. There's like one aura item and a few support utility items. They're actually kind of fun to use because you get to like slingshot people with rescue beam, and overall in the early game, there's no support. There are roles of who initiates, who stuns, who does damage, who's utility, but they all do it in very fun, creative ways, and a lot of heroes can sometimes be played as utility or as carry. There's options to build gun, a physical damage build. There's options to build magic damage. The only thing that really varies is from patch to patch, and that's about like cracking the code that we talked about earlier. So kind of like min-maxing the meta still exists, which I really enjoy. What is the best build? But you also have the choice to just not go that build if you find something more fun. Maybe you know it's not the best build, but you also know that like it is viable, and so many heroes can be played around different skills that they have rather than having to build essentially around like mana burn on anti-mage, for instance, with Manta Basher. And last but not least, the real reason that I've been mainly playing Deadlock over Dota is that I get to pick whatever hero I want to play in Deadlock, and the game matches me. Yeah, matchmaking and ranked may end up being worse in Deadlock eventually, but I really do believe all the problems in Dota could be fixed with maintenance and constant support. And the biggest thing about it is, if I want to learn a new character in Deadlock, I get to learn a new character. If I want to practice, I get to practice. In Dota, that is just not the case. And for me, and I think a lot of people, the grind of Dota has felt ever so little bit less and less satisfying and worth it. And it does not pay off like it used to. And for me, you know, the Dota will always hold a fond place in my heart, and I'll always come back to it, and I'm always going to watch it. And I'll certainly play it when new patches come out. But the grinding aspect of the game, I think it is really soul-sucking at the end of the day. And this is the most essential part for why Deadlock is offering me what Dota always did. But now it gives me, removing these 3 things, it allows me to actually enjoy the game to its fullest, and while also scratching the same itches that Dota always scratched. So thank you so much for listening. This video has been all about, honestly, my favorite game of all time, Dota, and what I view as its spiritual successor, Deadlock, and what I mainly want to be playing moving forward. Not that I'll never play Dota, I'll still be making you guys Dota content, but hope you guys got a glimpse into what I liked about these games, what I don't like about them. Maybe you can resonate, maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Overall, these are things I like to think about. These are the topics of discussion that I like to have, and my main goal with these types of videos is to just kind of spur a discussion. You know, you hear my thoughts. Would love to hear yours. Come check me out at twitch.tv/bananaslamjamma if you'd like to discuss with me live. You can also join the Discord server and type in the Ask BSJ section. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later.